call it an ABO co-dominant trait. And so basically on our red blood cells, our red blood cells are going to kind of dictate what kind of blood we have. And so we're going to make this fairly simple. There's definitely more to it than I'm going to talk to you guys about. So the red blood cells membranes, so the cell membrane have, it's called a glycoprotein, which is just a sugar-coated protein called an antigen on the external surface. And the antigens are going to say what kind of blood cell it is. And it is unique to the individual, and it is going to recognize any sort of transfused blood into the individual, and it will either reject it or say to reject it or not. So it says the presence or absence of these antigens is used to classify blood groups. And we go through this in biology, and so this should kind of sound familiar. So the antigens of the ABO, and then there's this RH. The RH makes it the positive or the negative or the plus or the minus that you see. So if you're like A positive, that's the RH. And we're going to get to RH in a little bit. But there can be a transfusion reaction. If you have a certain type of blood and you get a different type of blood, there can be a transfusion reaction where basically you're going to coagulate all the blood, and it can be deadly. So there are two antigens in the human body. There's an A antigen and a B antigen, and these are on the red blood cells. Then there's also two antibodies, and antibodies are things that are in your body that attack other things. And so there's an anti-A antibody, so it doesn't like A blood. And there's an anti-B antibody, so it doesn't like B blood. So the anti-A antibody does not like the A antigen, and the anti-B does not like the B antigen. So this chart is just showing you the types of antigens and antibodies certain blood types have. So the AB blood group, if you have AB blood, you can see that you have A and B antigens on the red blood cell. But in the blood plasma, which is the liquid portion, you have no antibodies. And I'm going to explain this in detail tomorrow. And in the B group, you have B antigens on the blood, but you have anti-A antibodies. The opposite is true for A blood. You have A antigens and anti-B antibodies. And then O is actually the recessive form of blood in the human body. And in O, you have no antigens, but you have both antibodies, anti-A and anti-B. So when you're looking at AB blood, that is considered to be the universal recipient, meaning it can get all the different blood types, and O is the universal donor. Now when it comes to the positive or negative, so A positive, B positive, A negative, B negative, there's another protein, and it's the presence of this RH factor, as we call it. And so basically, if the RH factor is on the red blood cell along with whatever kind of blood antigen you have, then you are Rh positive. If you're Rh negative, you do not have that protein present. And no matter what, Rh positive people, the Rh factor is dominant. So if one person in a marriage has the Rh positive blood, then the baby will be Rh positive because it is dominant. And then I'm going to explain this part. It says if an Rh individual receives Rh positive blood, the antibodies will form, and then the second time you'll go through a transfusion reaction. And I'm going to explain that a little bit more in this lecture, but a little bit more when we get back to class. And this is when the Rh actually matters. So it's called hemolytic disease of a newborn. And so hemolytic disease means that basically if the this only applies if the mother is Rh negative and the baby is Rh positive. So what is going to happen if the mother is Rh negative and the baby is Rh positive? There's always going to be some blood exchange between the fetus and the mom. And so what happens is the mother will produce antibodies, and antibodies are the ones that are going to attack. And so they're going to be like anti-Rh antibodies. So they don't like the Rh positive protein. And so what's going to happen, the first baby, the mother does not have any antibodies in the bloodstream. And so she's not going to attack her baby. But the second baby, then she's been exposed to the Rh positive blood from her first baby, and she's produced antibodies. And now those antibodies are going to fight against her second baby's blood. And so what we call this is erythroblastosis fetalis. And so what can happen is there can be a problem in the during birth, and there can be an attack of the mother's blood against the baby's blood. Today we have a nice drug that they will inject into the mother called Rogam, and it will prevent the mother from becoming sensitized, meaning that she's not going to produce those antibodies. And so then there won't be any exchange, or there won't be any attacking of blood from the mother to the baby. Now, unfortunately, when we're giving blood, when we give blood to a blood bank, they're going to process the blood, they check the type of the blood, etc. But actually giving blood in a critical situation is very important for them to know the patient's blood and what they're giving them, because you can have a transfusion reaction. And so I'm going to explain this more when we get back into class, but what happens is antibodies in the plasma portion of the blood are going to attack any foreign blood type that doesn't match what you already have. So if a person with A blood gets B blood, those anti-B antibodies, because they're against B, they hate B, they're going to attack the B blood that they're being infused with. So it's really important that they know what kind of blood they're giving you, because you can have a transfusion reaction and it can actually cause death. So what's going to happen is we're going to end up having clumping blood, and we're going to do a lab where you guys are going to see how this actually can occur.